Game Design 2, Lecture 5, Segment 6. Let's recap feedback. Before I get into the at-a-glance slide like I put at the end of all of my lectures, I want to give you a quick cheat sheet for the types of feedback loops that we discussed. So remember, positive success resulting in a positive reward is a positive feedback loop. A negative failure resulting in a negative punishment, still a positive feedback loop. Positive, 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 negative, negative, positive, just like math. When we mix and match, that's when we get our negative feedback loops. I fail and I'm rewarded, negative feedback loop. I succeed and I'm punished, negative feedback loop. So take a screenshot, have this handy. You're going to need to know this stuff. Let's talk about the actual recap. Again, Lecture 5, player feedback at a glance, some of the things that we talked about. Beware of pop science. Dopamine isn't all that it's cracked up to be, largely regarded as the chemical that gives us pleasurable sensation, but it can be very different based on the situation, the perception, and the human brain, the individuality of, or the characteristic traits of the individual experiencing your mechanics. Yeah, we can predict and expect and implement feedback loops as they've been described in this lecture predictably, but you're going to still need to test your feedback systems, collect your data, analyze, and iterate for your particular demographic and your particular desired aesthetic or player experience that you're going for. And remember, positive feedback loops are where we reward success or punish failure. They are largely used for very skill-driven player experiences where we want the skill of the player to be the determining factor in success. Beware, they can reduce agency. When I've lost so much or I've failed so much that I'm having trouble succeeding, or when I've won so much, I've succeeded so much, it's just even hard for me to lose or fail at all. Negative feedback loops, rubber banding, that's where we want to keep it close, a more casual gameplay experience where the player always feels agency, always feels like they can come back because we know that the mechanics of the game are going to be punishing that player that's in first, rewarding and helping that player that's in last to keep it close, maintaining agency throughout the experience. Which way is the best way? Balance is typically the way that we would prescribe to do it in games. Make sure that there's enough rewards for skill, but enough forgiveness for failure, as well as a little bit of a handicap for somebody who gets too far out and ahead. Throw into that mix unlooped feedback, aesthetic rewards, rewards that stay with the player but don't necessarily affect the probability of success positively or negatively in the future. Players love it. Skins, hats, what have you. Schema is what the player brings to the table, what we already know about this type of genre of game, or even if it's a sequel, the games that we've played before. Common things like movement and objectives and weapons and switching. Don't increase the learning curve any more than you have to by taking things out of the schema, reinventing the wheel. Your player is going to have enough to learn about your unique mechanics and novel experience. You don't need to add to that by reinventing any wheels. Scaffolding, largely regarded as the IPM introduce, practice, master. It's the way we build up the player. We support their learning and practicing of skills as they master them. After they've mastered these skills, we can take the scaffolding away and build on those master skilled until we have the player generalizing those skills into almost muscle memory or automatic cognitive process to playing through the game. And then finally, we looked at the example of Portal, where it is important to scaffold, it is important to have tutorials, but if you can do it in kind of an integrated, inherent, organic way, the player feels like they are just learning or just starting the story or the experience, and it's not just an overt text pops up on the UI and says, do this before we let you continue. Generally, it's going to be more palatable by your player. Definitely worth a watch and consideration when you're looking at how to introduce these new mechanics, new skills, these tutorial systems to your players so they can be successful. So that's it for Lecture 5 recap, Lecture 5 feedback at a glance. Refer to this slide to jog your memory, and this can point you back to the other various segments of the lecture. Definitely recommend that you have this handy when you do the reading and or the quizzes, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care. Over now.